Dave Nichols on the line. Hey, welcome back, Dave.
Heck yeah. I'm part of the family now, kids.
That's right.
That's right. The phones have been ringing off the hook, and they say, Dave Nichols told me to call. Hi, I'm calling because of Dave Nichols. And, just got a lot of stuff happening. We got major deals on the table.
Look at on my list.
I mean,
It's
damn.
every day. Dave Nichols wants you to do this. Dave Nichols wants you to do that. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I'm just getting started.
I know.
It hasn't happened yet. Every day I call up Deb and I say, okay, listen, this guy's going to call you. He's got a list, but don't say anything about it. He's going to call you up, and he's going to talk to you about being on this thing. It's like I told you, I'm only going to bring you good people.
And that's so important because that's who you are. You've earned the respect that you have in this biker community. Tell us a little bit about the beginning days of Easyriders, because it's so iconic, man. We got to go back to that and get a little bit more about history and a story or two about the early days of Easyriders when you really helped put it in gear and put it in place and, just create that real biker publication like no other.
Well, I'll tell you guys, this is a true story, and this happened before I started working for them because the first editor was Lou Kinsey, and Lou was the brains behind Easyriders. He's the guy who had this vision for what this thing could be like, because back then, a motorcycle magazine was very straight, and it was, well, we're going to tell you we're going to have this bike go up against this bike, and we're going to have a shootout and see which of these two bikes are the best for your buck, which is great. But what we wanted to do is create something that really talked to the biker audience, a real biker lifestyle magazine about the people. And the bikes are certainly a huge part of that. But it's about how we have fun and where we go and what we do and the whole culture that is wrapped around two wheels. That's what it is, really, So Easyriders, and before Easyriders, there was a magazine called Choppers that was created by Big Daddy Roth. And it's back. It's back. Kerry Brobeck is the editor, and I work on that a little bit, and it's a great quarterly magazine. But Easyriders was the one that captured the lifestyle, really. And I remember in the early 70s, I would go down to this little market down the street, a little Italian deli, and they had a magazine rack. And on the magazine rack was like the first couple of issues of Easyriders Magazine. And I picked that thing up and started looking through it. And you know what? There were scantily clad ladies in there. Yeah. And it talked about the partying and the fun and the bikes. And I went, oh, I got to have this. Well, apparently, the nice family that owned Rizzo's Deli, they didn't realize that there were, pretty much naked ladies in there. So they sold me the magazines, as a kid. And I go, oh, I took them home and devoured them,
Up to the tree fort you went, huh?
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, when I actually got a job working at Easyriders, I thought this is the ultimate, really. I mean, if you love motorcycles, who wouldn't want to hang out at the Easyriders clubhouse, right? So this is a true story, and of course this is back when Lou was the editor. Back in the day, in the early days, before Easyriders was even a monthly magazine, they didn't go in there and work their asses off every day to create this thing. They waited to the last possible minute.
Oh,
and they'd come in there, and Lou would have a briefcase, and he would open it on the conference table. And he'd say, okay, let's see, Ron, let's see. If I remember right, you like pot and these whites here. And he'd lay out, here, that's for you. And Deb, you like the
cheesecake
meth and a little mushrooms. I remember. and so he would lay all these things out on the table and then say to the staff, okay, let's get creative.
Oh, okay.
It must have worked.
Yeah.
Let's try that on the next radio show.
Yeah. And 48 hours later, the magazine went off to the printer. And apparently, that's how they did it way back in the day. Well, when I got there, things were a little different. They were a little bit more corporate, but not much. Like you could still go into the managing editor's office where you had a big bottle of Jack Daniels, pour yourself a shot any time if you were having a rough day. It was that kind of place. And it was very cool. People could bring their dogs to work. There were motorcycles inside the building. There were motorcycles outside in the parking lot. And honest to God, on Fridays at noon, everybody got on their bike and went for a ride, because if you weren't riding your bike, you certainly couldn't write about riding your bike. And
that's for sure, Dave.
It was the coolest. It was the best. And then, of course, when I came on board, Keith Ball was the editor, and he was like God. You walk in, and here's this guy who's like 7 feet tall, and he's like, "Hi, I'm Keith Ball." And you go, wow, he's bigger than life, this guy. Yeah, Keith was amazing, and he and Frank Keisler were the early on editors after Lou Kimsey. Eventually, he had diabetes, and so he got to the point where he couldn't work anymore, but he still consulted with us. But Frank Keisler and Keith Ball, they were it in the early days of Easyriders Magazine. And Keith was one of these guys that had every cool motorcycle you ever could imagine. He had Pat Kennedy build this gorgeous orange Easyriders chopper that was in his office, sitting there. Like you'd walk in, and there it is. And then you'd go in, and he had this panhead motor that was his desk with a glass top. And then over to the side, he had this great big conference table that was literally a jail door, a metal, cell door that had glass on top of it. And you'd pull up a motorcycle seat that was your seat, like a bar stool, and we would have these editorial meetings. And the thing about Keith is, early on, Keith figured out how to have, not Bluetooth, because this was a thing, where you had a cord still into your phone. You wouldn't know he's on the phone. So you'd walk in and you'd say, "Keith, look, I got this idea for a new story. I think you're really going to like it." And he would smile, and he would hold up one finger, and then you'd realize that the whole time that you had been talking to him, he was on the phone with somebody. He's like, "Oh, just a minute. Okay. Now, what were you saying? What was that?" And but he was the most fun guy to work for. We went to Sturgis one year. It was the first year that I was working for them. I got to go to Sturgis with Rip and Keith Ball and Kim Peterson, and I mean the legends, One cool thing, as I am talking to people in the industry, almost every single one of them, when I tell them about Born to Ride, they say, "Oh yeah, I think they interviewed me once for their TV show." Everybody over the last 25 years, Ron and Deb have interviewed everybody.
We tried to cover it all.
Well, that's a great point, Dave, because anytime you're a producer and you produce or whatever you do, you're judged really by your body of work. And you don't just get all these promos of Willie Nelson or Charlie Daniels or Evel Knievel or Willie G overnight, or Hulk Hogan and, even Chuck Mangione, all kinds of people. It just happens sometimes. And that's what it takes so long to get that body of work. And we're proud of that, and that's a great thing, because another thing is Florida is such a state with the bike week, so that everybody comes here, so they're going to be exposed to the magazine and the hotel. We always made sure we put them in the hotels, motels, the resorts, where everybody goes, the industry stays. They're going to pick it up. We used to do an infomercial during Bike Week and make sure it ran in all the hotel rooms, and I would run it at 6 to 8 a.m., and run it from 10 to 1 a.m. because that's when people are in their hotel rooms getting ready to go. And we'd go out in the field and, we'd see all these big hi-fi camera crews and all this with their nose up in the air. And we'd just be running and gunning and doing our thing. And, I mean, our stuff would get edited, put right on the show. Sometimes I'd see these other people's stuff, and they don't even know how to shoot the biker lifestyle. They weren't bikers. There's angles and dynamics that you have to have. And we just tried to expose that to people, and it's just a natural thing, So, yeah, it's rewarding, that we have documented the lifestyle in a proper way as much as possible,
Ronnie would hand me the microphone and go, "There he is. There's so-and-so. Go get an interview." And he'd start the camera, and I'm like, okay, who am I talking to?
We always figured it out.
Okay, that speaks an enormous amount for you, Deb, though, because you just jump in there,
Yeah, but she forgot to tell you. There is some direction there. So that's pretty cool that you've been actually talking to people about Born to Ride, Dave.
Well, yeah. I sent a list over to Ron and Deb the other day of all the people I've been talking to. So, yeah, and what's great is where you guys are located, because you have pretty much taken over the entire southeast of America. Mm-hmm. That's where more than half of the registered motorcyclists reside. It's like the place. And especially, I'm sure in Florida, you get to ride year-round.
Oh, yeah.
So, what's not to like?
Yeah, and that's why it's important to be able to be seen at Bike Week and see the product or see the magazine and, put it out there, because everybody comes to Bike Week from all over the world, and they're going to take that home with them. They're going to go back to the website and, find out a little bit more about Born to Ride. So we've always tried to document it properly and just have some good content, dynamic stuff, and travel adventure, charity, and, supporting our veterans, what bikers like. But we know they're coming to Florida, so it's a great testing ground for some of these big companies you're sending our way and you're talking to right now. And, the phone calls that are coming in are these big companies with the rigs, and, it's exciting. Merchandise contracts. There was a big meeting last Friday. We can't talk about it yet, but, man, a lot of good stuff, Dave, is already coming. You're already kind of energized with a jump start. And, I mean, that's exciting.
Yeah, that's really it, because everybody in this industry, they're all reinventing themselves right now. They're all trying to make it work and figure things out, Nobody expected this goofy virus to come along, It really changed a lot.
And come along again.
Yeah, right. So, my thing is, I absolutely know that anybody that rides a motorcycle, they want to be out there riding their bike now more than ever, and, but riding a bike, you're social distancing.
Mm-hmm. Just like that.
You're very active riding your bike, So, I think that this will be, as we move forward, an incredible time to be on two wheels, and it's a great time to be part of Born to Ride. I'll tell you that.